In this movie, I'll show you how to adjust the cap and corner options as well as the miter limit. And of course, I'll also give you a sense for why you'd want to do these things. But I'm going to start off with a little trick that you're just going to love. I'm way zoomed in here, and I've managed to deselect my numbers, which means I'm faced with a proposition because the numbers are not grouped together of zooming out and marqueing them. Or what I ended up doing was twirling open the numbers layer and then clicking on the meatball for the 1 and shift clicking on the meatball for the 2 and shift clicking on the meatball for the 3 and so forth. Here's the trick. After I did that, because these are not grouped together, I went up to the select menu and I chose the save selection command, which is this really great feature that very few people know about here inside of Illustrator. And after you've done that, your save selection appears right down there. So all you do is you just choose this command and name the selection. That's it. And now if I choose my selection that I saved, the numbers, then I select all the numbers in the document. And this saved selection is saved as part of the illustration. So you can always come back to it later. Isn't that absolutely great? Anyway, I'm going to shift tab away my panels and zoom out just a little bit so that I can take in more numbers at a time. And I want to be able to see the 4, 5, and 6 to start things out here. Now, if I go up to the stroke panel, now if I click on the word stroke up here in the control panel, you'll see that I've got 3 cap options and 3 corner options plus the miter limit right there. We'll start with cap. The cap option determines if and how the stroke wraps around an endpoint. So every one of the numbers except for the 8 has endpoints associated with it, a point at which the path starts and a point at which the path ends. Notice by default the stroke ends abruptly at that endpoint, and that's a function of this first hilarious setting, butt cap. Now, if you want to go ahead and wrap the stroke around the endpoint, you have 2 options. One is round cap, which goes ahead and rounds off the cap right there at the corner, and you can see that the cap actually extends half the line weight, that is 8 points, beyond that endpoint. Your final option is projecting cap, which goes ahead and creates a kind of square off the endpoint. And again, it's going to extend half the line weight out. And you may find projecting cap specifically useful when you're trying to get 2 different strokes to align with each other, so you're trying to fill in a gap. So just bear in mind, it's going to be half the line weight when you do that. In my case, it's a bad thing because notice here at this endpoint of the 6, we've got the projecting cap extending out beyond that left-hand edge. So what we really want for these rounded letters, that's the effect I'm going for, is round caps. So I'll go ahead and apply those. Next, we've got the corner option. Now, by default, it's a miter join, meaning that we should get nice sharp corners at every single corner point. And we're not going to see anything in the way of corners at smooth points. So smooth points are always going to be smooth. Only at corner points and cusp points are we going to see these sharp corners right here. But not always. Notice the 3 right next door here. So we have some big spikes coming off the 4. So spiky, in fact, that the 4 is encroaching on the 3. The 3, though, is just beveled off. And that's because it is too acute of a corner to be accommodated by the miter join at the current miter limit setting. So I'll bring back the stroke panel. You can see that limit value right there. It's 10x. Little confusing. What it means is 10 times half the line weight. So in this case, Illustrator is willing to create a spike off the end of that 3 that is 10 times 8, that is to say 80 points long, but it's not going to go any longer. Let me show you how long you have to go for this 3. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out here a little bit so you can take it in. And I'll go ahead and bring up the stroke panel again. I'll click in the limit value and I'll press shift up arrow. Now it's 20, now it's 30 times, now it's 40 times, now it's 50 times. So I'm saying, all right, 50 times 8, which is what? 400 points. It can go ahead and extend 400 points if it wants to, but it's not because it can't. That's not enough. So it had to keep increasing that value to, well, at some point you would think it's actually going to budge. There we go. At a miter limit of 150 times half of the line weight. So whatever the math there is, it's extraordinarily long. You can see that the 3 has this sort of Pinocchio nose coming off of it. So it's not a becoming effect at all. But turns out that's okay because we don't even want a miter join. What we want is the next join in here, which is round join. And that's going to go ahead and give us these nice round joins that are specifically designed to accommodate these numbers. So we're going to get these wonderfully rounded numbers as a result. Notice the limit value goes away because it's only available to us when we're applying a miter join. And then finally, you've got a bevel join, which is just going to clip everybody off the way the corner of the 3 was clipped off just a moment ago. So we have clipped corners on the 4, the 5, the 2, and, of course, for all the numbers. The only number that's not affected by any of these settings, by the way, either the cap or corner settings, is this guy right here, the 8. And that's because he has no endpoints, and he's made up exclusively of smooth points. Anyway, I'm going to click on stroke once again and change it to round join like so. And then we end up getting the round joins that we're looking for throughout all of these numbers. And that, friends, is how you exploit the power of caps, joins, and miter limits here inside Illustrator.